Have you ever felt overwhelmed by the chaos that is a disorganized classroom? Today, we'll take a look at a few strategies that can revolutionize your teaching space. But let's start with why organizing classroom centers matters. Why classroom center organization matters? Well, classroom organization is a pillar of classroom management, and peace in the classroom occurs because everyone knows the routines, where to find what they need, and how to put things away. Organizing classroom centers allows students to quickly access materials, efficiently clean up, use learning time more effectively. We also have students who are highly visual and find visual chaos overwhelming and distracting. I know wonderful, kind, gentle, knowledgeable, and effective teachers who have lived in chaos. This doesn't mean that chaos works. I just wonder how much more they could have achieved with organization. Even my own classroom took a few years to get organized to what I wanted it to be. And I know there were students who were impacted by that. I know for sure that there were, because I had one little girl who, towards the end of our year working together, um, started to offer to organize and tidy a few things for me. And that's when it actually really hit me that I needed to understand better what I needed to do on behalf of my students. You see, one of the things that we'll talk about in this is creating the canvas of your classroom. And I talk about this in a few videos, but I love color. I've always worn bright colors. I love color. I mean, today, funnily enough, I've got a white shirt, but I don't know if you've noticed, I've got a red top underneath it because I love bright color. And so originally I was thinking in my classroom, I wanted lots of color everywhere. Well, my classroom did always have a lot of color, but the background was neutral. And you'll see a little bit more of that in this video. It's really covered in another one. But so let's get started and I'll address that more later. But I'll just say I did my best from the very beginning, but I also know how impactful the change I made was, in part because of that little girl. Now, you're not likely watching this during a break. Maybe you are. That's fantastic. But if you're not, it's hard to do a lot of organizational work during the school year, the instructional year, and I understand that. So if you're ready to transform your classroom into an organized zone of learning, start small. Make one change today, perhaps reorganize a shelf or a binder. Observe the impact on your teaching and your students' engagement. And you can share your progress in the comments below and how this has impacted your classroom. Now, let me be completely honest. What I'm going to share with you today is not necessarily going to make your classroom Pinterest perfect. I mean, I really like the way it sets up a classroom. I learned it from very Pinterest perfect teachers. A lot of what I did, I learned about the neutral from teachers who were very Pinterest perfect. But this is not in and of itself Pinterest perfect organization. Nothing wrong with Pinterest. Pinterest is popular for a reason, but uh these are strategies that are hopefully targeted to make it possible for everyone. Uh Pinterest perfect strategies are very visually appealing. But I'm going to suggest you organize the classroom for practicality, which does not mean unattractive. It just means practical. This is a simpler, practical, cost-effective approach that avoids visual overwhelm because you have highly visual students. If you've got a student that gets overwhelmed, you're inviting behavior. So especially if the student is maybe on the spectrum or is neurodiverse in another way that finds all of it too stimulating, you need to create an environment that works for all of your students. So here's how you can do it too. When organizing classroom centers, observe your storage spaces. I had open shelves for the most part. My classroom, a picture of my classroom is the one on the right. You can see that there are some closed shelves with doors along the top of that, but really most of mine were not like that. Most of mine were all open fronted. Um, and so I used white binders and simple plastic sleeves for minimal visual chaos. This strategy keeps distractions at bay and helps maintain that more harmonious learning environment because everybody's a little bit calmer. You can see in the picture on the right, um, you might be able to see a few little splotches of color on that shelf where all the binders are, because I went through a process of time. Originally, my binders, because binders can be expensive, were just whatever binder I could get with just a mishmash of labels, because I was just trying to get a classroom up and going. And eventually what I did was, over time I accumulated white binders, and over time I got that more neutral background, because my classroom still had lots of color, but it was color on a neutral background. So the color was the students' artwork. Where I had anchor charts, they stood out because they weren't being surrounded by visually overwhelming material. So I was really intentional about where I used color. So on the right, again, is my classroom. You can see the difference between that. Now, if you look at that bookshelf on the left, you can see that is an organized bookshelf. There is, people would say, wow, nice organization. But the truth is, there's a lot of visual distraction in that bookshelf, because even though those bins are there, you can see through the bins. And I had open books on my shelves. There's nothing wrong with books on your shelves. But again, if you keep the things around the bookshelf, the books on your shelves, like so, eventually I had little brown wooden boxes from IKEA, and that's where we kept our books. So they were still fronted by something neutral, and that kept some of the color down. But you can see that the tubs are transparent, and we'll get to that a little bit more. But you can see that that adds to the color. I will also tell you that that brown bookshelf, I had brown bookshelves, and it wasn't just one kind of brown bookshelf. I mean, I wanted more shelving for more storage because I wanted more stuff that I used, because I liked kids having lots of hands-on activities. And so they were all a mismatch. And eventually I painted them all white again, because I wanted the focus to be on what the students were doing in their hands, or on their artwork, or on the messages that I was trying to communicate through my anchor charts. I prioritized the color where I needed it. So know your storage. If all of the fronts of your cupboards are closed, like in those, if they're all closed, that's fantastic. However, even behind those gray shelves that you can see on the right there, um, my binders were white, because when I did a unit or a theme, I pulled down the resources for that unit and I put them into storage right beside my desk, and then rotate it through that way, so that when I was doing lesson planning, I had my materials there. And again, topic for another video, but I needed it there because that created great efficiency. So I had all my stuff organized Monday to Friday, great for any sub. So my point is, even behind my doors, my binders were white, because that was effective for planning and kept the visual overwhelm down when I was rotating units through. So in my classroom, I chose the white binders. Please forgive any shadows. This is not professional photography. I just wanted to give you a really good visual of what I did in my classroom. So I actually didn't give the students the binders for these. I just put, when I had small groups, I just put the envelope of math worksheets into their bucket and passed out buckets. But still, the white binder is great organizationally, because you've got them all in one place. You've got it slipped into your bookshelf. You just pull out the next worksheet in the series. So, but here's an example. And again, forgive the shadows. So you've got the main make 10 color by code. There's still the spaceman for the add doubles and add near doubles. And last but not least, I've got the 10 more, adding 10 to teens. So 4 different skill levels in the binder. I can just easily pull that binder out, plop it in the bucket. Bob's your uncle, easy differentiation. So that's one example of how I would use buckets or the magazine boxes. Either way, simple organization. Everything's in a plastic sleeve, and my students are able to pull them out of there easily and put them back in easily. And if you put the answer key at the beginning and you put the actual color by code worksheets behind, you teach your students pull from behind, then they've always got the answer key right there to self-assess their works. I mean, I did it on an honor system. Students tend to, have never run into a problem with that. And again, you've got to know your group. Anyways, so that's one option. So in my classroom, I chose to use binders, but these are white magazine boxes, cardboard boxes from IKEA. They work out to about, I don't know, 50 cents each. If you tape them along the bottom with the wide packing tape, especially if you're in charge of them, they will last forever. I use them as book boxes for my students, and they lasted the entire year with 6 and 7 year olds. So they are quite sturdy, and they're a great way to provide that neutral background. um, Easy access, way easier for some students than a binder option, and a recyclable, affordable, neutral tone. So all sorts of good options with this. Another option with organizing your centers is to provide choice, but within the same mental math strategy. You can see here, as I start to scan, that these are all part of the Make 10 mental math strategies. But there are 6 designs here, as I show you as I go over. And so your students can choose which design they want to color. Now, this heightens engagement, which is going to be important for all of your students, but specifically also students with ADHD or students that struggle maybe with their mental math strategies. So providing choice is that differentiation piece that can be very valuable. Uh, you have to know your classroom. Is 6 different worksheets in this theme too many options? Is that going to overwhelm some of your students? So you might want to only put out 3, or you could put out all 6. It depends on your group. So again, there's different options. Do you want to just put out one worksheet at different levels of skill, or do you want to put out organize your centers. So you have multiple worksheets, differentiating in a different way, again, through choice and process and product, but in a way that has everybody working on the same skill level. And then you have to determine how many options they get. And of course, you can still do this using different themes throughout the year. And of course, if you get this one has got 6 different designs just for Make 10, but if you want to do review or you just want to do the camping theme all year, although I wouldn't recommend that, that would get a little boring and you'd start to lose the engagement. But you can get the curate, choose resources that have the same thing in all the different math skill levels. So you've got multiple choices for how you choose to organize your centers for what will be in them. One of the important things in classroom centers when you're considering organizing them is when choosing your activities or curating your activities, how are you going to provide that repetition that your students are going to need, for example, at your math centers when they have to remember their mental math strategies? So you want activities that are going to nurture student independence and boost skill level at the same time. You want to choose activities with common rules and expectations to allow your students to focus on learning the math skill, for example, the Make 10 math facts, rather than the mechanics of the task itself. How do I play this game? How do I do this color by code? How do I um, do this matching activity? Whatever it is, you want to be able to instruct activities the first couple times that they have to use them. Yeah, I do, we do, we do, you do. So you want to instruct them how to do the activity, and then for the rest of the year, have your students able to pull it out and go, oh, this is color by code. I know the classroom expectations. I know how to complete the activity. I know how to do the self-check. I know to where to put it when I'm done. I know what to do if I don't finish it. I know what to do when I'm an early finisher. You want them to have all of that information, practice that all in September and October, so that for the rest of the year, whenever you pull out a similar activity, that they know exactly what to do. And this supports you both in your organization because it's easy to just consistently whip out similar activities. So, for example, what you see in front of you on the page here is both from my color by code activities. Both of these are Make 10 because that's the repetition part. You can do the repetition like I suggested earlier with 6 different designs from the same skill level, but you might have students that really need to work on Make 10 consistently, or you may rotate math skills throughout the year so that they're consistently practicing them, because once you've memorized math Make 10, doesn't mean if you've done that in November, it doesn't mean you've still got it memorized in March. So some spiral review is good. So the point is you're going to be looking for activities that have consistent expectations. The students know consistently how to do it, but are different. So here we've got my camping theme, my space theme. In my color by code activities, there are, I believe, 10 different themes. So certainly enough to get you through the holidays of the year like Halloween, Valentine's, Christmas, but also other themes like awesome 80s and Western for and space of course could be part of your actual uh, science unit on planets and skies. So you've got the ability to provide repetition in practice without constantly having to teach So
how
to
to
use simple
use the new
organization for
activity.
classroom centers, you're going to organize your centers, whether it's in a binder or an IKEA book box or something equally simple. And I encourage you again to keep the look neutral. If you have the translucent plastic boxes, that can also be very effective, but then people put really bright, colorful labels on them. And I'm sorry if that's your classroom, I don't mean to offend, but that can be really distracting for a student. Yes, it creates independent. I put labels on my boxes, but they're simple business cards with a little rose on them. Honestly, the rose is there because I had them from something else. And I thought, that'll be pretty. But it's not a big, distracting, colorful, bubbly kind of label. Very, very simple. And this allows, again, the classroom to be lit up by what the students do. So organizer centers, binder, book boxes, anything that is not transparent. Put your binder or other system on the table, having taught the student how to use it, when to use it, how to do everything to complete the activity. And then you sit down and you go and do your small group teaching. Simple, simple. I do hope you'll join me again soon. You will see on the screen some of the suggested videos.